Are you stuck hovering around 20% of body fat? You follow the fitness rules, cutting carbs, doing fasted cardio, but nothing seems to work. What if there was a way to finally get shredded while eating foods you can actually enjoy, like steaks, eggs, and potatoes, etc.? This simple meal plan can change everything. It's a straightforward, effective plan to help you break through your plateau and finally hit that 10% of body fat. Hi, my name is Boris Kish. I'm an IVB license coach, professional nutritionist, and a super heavyweight bodybuilding competitor in the over 100 kilo category, which is over 220 pounds on stage. I'm 6'4" tall, which is 193 centimeters. Welcome to my channel. Now, let's start with the breakfast. Before I tell you about the breakfast, I would just like to tell you that these 4 meals are based on my 2,500 calorie deficit. That is not really a deficit, but a little bit, less than a deficit, because basic male metabolism who trains at least 4 times per week, does HIIT cardio after, is spending 3,000 calories daily. So this is for those who follow, of course, my episodes. I will explain it even now in short lines, how to adjust those 4 meals in those 2,500 calories, right? Just for you, so that you are able to go to 10% of body fat or even below if you want. It's really important that you understand that I divided all these 4 meals, again, just for you, at the most important time when to take them during the day, that are filled with your daily intake of protein. I always say for naturals, it's 200 grams of protein per kilogram. For enhanced is 3+ grams of kilograms. So roughly, I'm going to calculate this for the naturals, but of course it depends. If you're bigger, you can take more proteins, but everything else stays pretty much the same, because it's very hard that you convert protein into fat. It's not going to happen. Trust me, the body is taking as much protein as it needs. If it doesn't have energy sources from fats and carbs, then it's going to take extra protein and convert it into the, energy through the liver. It's going to make glycogen out of it. But if body has enough carbs and fats, it's not going to store protein as energy. So the breakfast, number one, the breakfast, as I always explain, you can take, for example, 50 grams of protein, and you can take 100 grams of protein porridge or oatmeal, and you can put some berries there inside. You can also put maybe 1 spoon of it's called, what is it called in English? Sorry, of walnut. Don't put the peanut butter, because it's equal, how can I say, it has the equal structure as Nutella. I like to put it, from nuts, from walnuts, this butter, if you can find it where you live, I prefer it that way. Almonds, this is the word that I wanted to say. I use the almond butter, is way better than peanut butter, unless you're really skinny, but this video is not for them. This video is for you who wants to get as lean as possible, right? The negative side, if you don't eat the breakfast, if you skip, if you do this fasting early in the morning, as that you will feel fucked up and hungry until the lunch and the most part of the day. And when the lunch time comes, you may get into the trap and you can eat pretty much everything, right? I mean, I was guilty of that many times, did that. Can you relate with this? So having a proper breakfast is extremely important. Now, before we go to the lunch, I would like to tell you that, this system is made mostly for men, right? Like you, who are working the whole day, and let's say roughly, let's say around till 4 or 5 p.m. and they will go to the train after the gym, right? After the work, so that you have the concept of eating properly made. Of course, if you train early in the morning or later at evening, you can adjust, but the basic principle is the same. So for lunch, I would take some chicken breasts, let's say 200 grams of chicken breasts roughly. Forgot to tell you, every meal is around 650 calories. So the lunch would be like 200 grams of chicken breasts. That's, around, I don't know, also 50 grams of protein, right? I know actually it's 50 grams of protein. And you put some salad that you like, I don't know, potatoes, salad, onions, mushrooms, what you like. Put some olive oil there for the fat, and you can take 80 grams of brown rice. This is fantastic lunch. You put your protein intake for the lunch. The negative side is if you skip lunch, if you say, I don't care about lunch, I will just eat before the workout, I will take my shake or who knows what. You will be hungry in the afternoon, you won't be performing at your work, you won't be performing properly mentally, you will starve, you will be too much without food, that's not good. And you might eat too much before the training, your stomach will be too full, you won't be able to train properly and do cardio properly. So this is why lunch like this around, let's say noon, would be the best option. The breakfast, I would say 8 a.m. Of course, you can adjust for your daily activities. Do you relate with this? How do you feel when you don't have a lunch? You can also write me, when do you actually, have your lunch? I honestly believe that the best time is around noon, because if I say I will take it later and later and later, then I forget, then I don't eat until the workout and feel like shit, right? You know how that feels. Now comes the time, for example, when you come home and you have to take some pre-workout proper meal, right? I would like to inform you before we go to that meal number 3 that I created 3 completely free training splits that you can get for free. The link is below. Join my coaching newsletter and I'm going to send them straight to your email. Pre-workout meal. So, yes, you can take, protein shake with some carbs, but let's do the heavy artillery as it is in the thumbnail that you saw when you click this video. I prefer protein, fat, good fat. Fat is cholesterol, it's testosterone factory, and of course some carbs. So before the workout, if possible, 1.5 hours before, it wouldn't be a mistake if it's 2 if you eat something like this. I would take, let's say, 150 grams of good steak, that you can prepare very easily, medium, I like it medium. I don't know what kind of steaks you'd like, tell me. 2 whole eggs. You have cholesterol from steak, cholesterol from the eggs, going to make your muscles, tighter. The pump is going to be much better during your workout. And I honestly would put there around 250 grams of, baked or cooked potatoes, depend how you like. Put some salt. Salt is extremely important before the training, that you get that pump and vascularity. The best pre-workout is salt. Never ever skip the salt intake during the day unless you really have the kidney problems, but that's not what this video is for. Honestly, for me, the salt works even better than creatine when it comes to fullness and pump. What do you think about that? Tell me. But that doesn't, for example, don't take more than 10 grams of salt per day unless you're really big guy, maybe 15, but don't go about that. I wouldn't recommend that. But then again, don't skip salt completely, because you're going to be flat and feel like shit during the workout. And now, comes the 4th meal, and that is after the gym. After the gym, again, sorry, I forgot to tell you the 3rd meal. If you don't take proper meal before the gym, you will feel weak. There will not be any pump. You won't be able to do cardio if you do afterwards. So it's extremely important that this meal is on point, or you will feel like crap during the workout. Meal number 4 after the workout is, for example, also supposed to be. So we hit the 3 most important periods for the protein so far. Early in the morning, during the lunchtime, so that you have protein, amino acid intake the whole day. Before training, after the training, I would say 3 take maybe 2 pieces of black bread that is integral bread, you know, I don't know how it's properly called in English, you know, but this full organic black bread that is not painted as they did in the bakery, maybe 2 slices. I would say take some good fish, fatty fish, if you can do salmon, some maybe, I would say salad, put some olive oil, I would say 200 grams of salmon. It's also, again, this is going to be altogether 650 calories, and this is the perfect post-workout meal because those, you know, amino acids and protein from the fatty fish are going to be digested for some period during until the evening, until you go to bed. Excuse me, sorry. Pro tip here is, so this is roughly 2,500 calories. Pro tip here is, I mean, sorry, I forgot to tell you, if you don't eat this meal after the training, it's like basically you ate for nothing. This is the best anabolic window that you can take, you know, after the workout, so that everything absorbs like a sponge into your system. And it's of course also increase the fat burn process so that you get below 10% of body fat much faster. Pro tip is, if you're going to stay later in the evening, I don't know when do you go properly, you know, to bed, you know, I would suggest 10 p.m. But if you stay later up, right? Pro tip is that you can increase 200 calories more, but be very careful what you take. I would suggest some cottage cheese, protein casein, but let's stick to the organic stuff. So cottage cheese or something like that, quark, if you can find it. Put some maybe half fist or fist of the almonds or olive oil, so that these fats and proteins get mixed in your stomach and they will be digested, you know, during the sleep, but it's not like a huge meal, and you will feel amazing during the whole night. You will be able to sleep properly. But, you know, again, if you go to sleep 2 hours after the last meal, then you don't have to do that. If you go 3-4 hours after the last meal, then I highly suggest that you increase the calories a little bit more. And trust me, it's not going to hurt you. When I go hungry to bed, honestly, I feel like I want to kill somebody. You know, it's horrible. Do you relate with this? You know, I cannot sleep when I'm hungry, honestly. I mean, this is like, better kill me, but don't put me to bed when I'm hungry. So, you know, I would like to hear you before. I would like to ask you to hit that like and subscribe button, of course, if you find value from this video, so I can keep delivering you more raw, real, unfiltered, uncut videos like this. And I want to hear your opinion, you know, do you relate with this? How many meals do you have per day? And what are your must-have meals? You know, what are your secrets that you prepare, you know, every day so that you keep yourself in good and proper shape, you know. So that would be all for today, but I highly suggest that you look this video over here. Here I explain the 3 phases of fat loss from 20% to 10% that everybody is going through, you know, and what to do when each phase hit and how to find the proper solution to get leaner even faster. And as always, I'll see you there.